pick.
Welcome back once more, ladies and gentlemen, for our fifth and final match of the day here in Starladder Season 8, Day 12. Thank you for joining us here on Beyond the Summit. I'm Zyori. With me once again is Merlini. And our last match of the day going to be Sigma facing off against Aspera. Merlini, my friend, how you feeling?
Sorry?
What was that?
How's it going?
Oh, it's great. I'm feeling good. It's been a pretty good day of casting. Less that small tech issue last match where I forgot to unmute my mic upon an array of dog barking. Other than that, I'm feeling pretty solid here. We got to see Dazzle, so that to me, that's a good day.
Yeah, and you got to see him wreck face too.
Yeah, even better.
And that was Pycat playing it. Pycat will be playing again on sigma.int along with Smogolig this time. So Pycat's just been everywhere. Played two games with Alliance, one game with SSD, and then one game with Sigma now.
I don't know what's going on,
but 4 out of the 5 Starladder matches.
Yeah, Pycat is the hero today coming in, and is his win rate 100% so far? I think it is. Alliance,
yes.
Yeah, Alliance on both their games, and SSD just beat Sigma, so we'll see. I think Sigma are the favorites here against Aspera, and of course Aspera is still running 3 stand-ins of their own, Lucky, Tapor, and Tomash. We recognize them, but still stand-ins nonetheless, so stand-ins aplenty today. I don't know what's up with that. But alas, this draft a bit underway here. I believe that was a first pick Outworld Devourer, Lich Mirana grabbed by Sigma, and the Bane was picked up by Aspera. Do I have that backwards? Was it a Lich first pick? I looked at the draft too late.
I'm not sure.
I thought it was OD first pick, but
10 seconds
I don't know. Just surprised that Sigma would pass up the Lich if they had, or pardon me, pass up the Bane Mirana combo if they had the option. But here we are, Merlini, going to see Alchemist finally in that first banning category. Not going to be played this match. He's been hot to trot so far today. Probably will be for the duration of the next couple weeks at least. And probably going to see him banned out more and more.
We should.
We should.
OP.
Yeah.
He's OP. He's so good without items is the thing.
Yeah. And he's good with items too.
Yeah, he's really good with items.
Scales very nicely. Also the
Medallion
Wisp ban.
plus unstable just does way too much damage.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. Really, all the bans here are pretty scary heroes. Wisp and Elder Titan. Not too often we see Wisp banned out like that. So sort of an interesting choice.
I don't even know if they have a Wisp player or not.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think Aspera has run Wisp with this lineup of stand-ins that I can recall. But yeah, you never know. I guess a hero that Sigma don't like playing against. But
I'm not sure.
Pretty straightforward to start things off. CM, Bane, Outworld Devourer for Aspera, Lich, Mirana, Pugna here for Sigma. And they're going to take their sweet time with this 4th pick. Going to burn almost all their bonus time. So interesting. Furion, they actually banned out the Furion. So I guess a sign that they're not going to go for an all-in push strategy, though that is generally what Pugna tends to signify. Kind of curious what they're going to go for here.
5 seconds remaining. Dire team pick.
And that's the Clockwork. No, pretty standard pick. We actually haven't seen any Clockwork today.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised at that too. Generally, he is picked very, very early in the drafting phase, but I mean, a lot of people have been running dual lanes, and Clockwork is just not the best at that. OD, Bane, those are heroes that Sigma.int loves to run. Pugna is the hero that they like to run often too. So I have not actually seen this new Aspera lineup. How have they fared in their games?
I would say subpar. Let me look at the history here and see who they've squared off against recently. Today is the 12th, so yesterday they played against Na'Vi. That was obviously a tough one. Na'Vi did take a pretty convincing win, and they did not play on Tuesday, and they did not play on Monday either. So we only saw them once as of yesterday, and yeah, like I said, Na'Vi definitely a rough opponent. So we haven't seen too much of them. But so far, they've had rough matchups now moving into Sigma. So not bad, not great, I would say. I would say standard for having 3 stand-ins. How's that?
That's Yeah, that's fair enough to say.
Admirable.
Sigma.int not going for an all-out push strat and not going for their typical Bane Rana, as you talked about. So just a little bit of mix of here and there. Lich, one of the more passive supports in the early game, but doesn't actually synergize that well with Pugna in terms of being able to push. He's already sustainable enough as it goes with Sacrifice. Mirana, not the best late game, so they don't really have
10
that great of
seconds
anything. Their
remaining.
early game's like okay, their push is okay, their late game's okay, and their
5
gank's just
seconds
okay. I
remaining.
would just rate them evenly across all of those. Aspera, on the other hand, they have much better early game Bane and
Reserve time.
Crystal Maiden, much more aggressive supports in the early
Dire
game.
team
Weaver can
pick.
also play aggressively early, and OD much more passive solo mid, but still can put out a lot of pressure on the mid lane and usually wins his lane. So Aspera has more lane dominator, Sigma Int just more of a all around balanced strat.
Yeah, and the Wind Ranger last pick is a little bit interesting. I'm kind of curious about how they're going to lane this.
Yeah, she's like the same thing. She's like okay at
10
ganking,
seconds
okay at
remaining.
Right.
AoE and team fight, but yeah, nothing really stands out for
5
me for Sigma
seconds
Man right now.
remaining.
I mean, we'll see how they lane it just based on the heroes. Fada
Reserve
actually,
time.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, Pycat. I mean, Fada. I don't remember the last time. I don't think I've ever seen Fada not go solo mid. So he might just be solo mid, Wind Ranger, and then we might see dual lanes or something like that. I'm not.
Yeah.
It is really weird to lane.
I mean, I would have thought that they'd be tempted to grab the Razor pick. He was still available. But, whoa, Tide going to be the final pick from Aspera. Been a long while since I've seen someone pick a Tide. So
I like
that's
Tidehunter.
it's pretty exciting. I like Tidehunter, too. He's a fun guy. He's got that big ultimate. Carries around a fish. What's not to like?
I think he's really good now that like Rubik has dropped off a lot in popularity as well as Lifestealer. I think those two heroes do like decently versus him. Lifestealer much more so than Rubik, but now that Lifestealer has just kind of just been ignored for a lot of the time. There's no more like Storm Spirit Lifestealer or Puck Lifestealer in every single game.
Yeah.
It's much more interesting.
Absolutely. So, Tidehunter, I mean, we'll take this opportunity to talk about him a little bit since we see him so infrequently. What are his banes as a hero? I guess his as a melee support, that can make things a little bit rough, though here he will be in the off lane, not a true support. But what are some of the issues when picking a Tidehunter?
Firstly, he doesn't do too well versus range heroes in lane. He is really good at a one-on-one matchup against a melee hero, but he is just so versus a ranged. He also gets shut down by BKB pretty hard. Force staffs not so much, just because the AOE on Ravage is pretty large, and his force staff he is likely to be ravaged too. He works well in minus armor strats with Gush. He also does pretty well with farm too. If he gets like Arcane Blink and then a later Refresher, he can do very well.
30 seconds to battle.
As far as other things that do well versus him, he gets shut down pretty hard by silences that don't actually do damage, such as Orchid, Global Silence, and Death Prophet and Drow Ranger silence, but none of those are in
Yeah.
this game. But if you silence them most of the time, or if you silence them with like someone like let's say a Puck or anything like that, he usually just cracks it off and just turns back to own you.
The
So
battle
he
begins.
doesn't do too well versus no damage silences.
Let
Yeah.
thy healing begin.
All right, good to know. So we'll see how Tomash fares here with the Tidehunter. On the dire side will be Team Aspera, and one of their three stand-ins will be in control of the Tidehunter here, and he's settled down in that bottom lane. Looks like it will be a 2-1-2 coming out from Aspera. Ink Visitor going to be on the Bane, headed down to the bottom lane as well. Sharfit going to be solo mid on the Outworld Devourer, and that means the two up top will be Lucky on the Crystal Maiden. And we'll have Tapor playing on the hard farming Weaver up in the top lane. Now it is going to be a 2-2-1 coming out for our Radiant side. Of course, Team Sigma.int. Right now, Lich is in the mid lane. That is the fucking Mad, going under the tag France at the moment. Fada going to be on the Pugna right now, and with that, Bane will rotate to the mid lane. So going to be a dual mid lane for both sides. Down to the bottom, Joker, a.k.a. Pycat, the stand-in for Sigma, going to be in the solo safe lane, going up against Tidehunter. And then up top, whoa, I'm going to see Tapor in a little bit of trouble.
Ooh,
Oh,
miss.
that power shot going to be off the mark. And that probably would have been a kill. Stand-in, Smolgalig. No, is that right? Smolgalig?
Yeah, he's been around. I've
Yeah.
seen him stand in before.
Smolgalig. I've seen him before as well. The pronunciation, always a struggle. Going to be on the Wind Ranger, and of course, McGinn, the Clockwork, in this interesting Clockwork Wind Ranger duo lane. Not a duo lane we've seen too many times before. but not bad. Some synergy. They've got a fair bit of crowd control. Cogs make for easy power shots, I suppose.
I'm surprised they didn't actually go for a farming Windrunner, but Clockwork just burning all of Topor's mana. He is actually out of mana right now. Crystal Maiden not even level 2 yet, almost 2 minutes in. Surprised that she isn't, because that Arcane Aura would help out a lot. And in the mid, we see dual lane, we see Buckyman and Fada both there, and they are trying to shut down this OD very, very hard, and it actually works out pretty well. If you can deny him experience, he won't be able to get levels in Astral, means he has less mana, which means less lane control and less base damage for him. He's doing okay in terms of CS, 5-1 on Sharfik, but Pugna has 7-1, and they're forced to rotate the Bane. They were forced to rotate the Bane. He was only there for like a minute, but that just makes Sharfik even more underleveled because he has to soak up half of his experience. So. Niggle.
Yep. Oh, up top. He's going to get put into the Nightmare. Still, the illusions out from Ink Visitor going to get a little bit of extra damage, but the support's not going to be there. And no kill going to come out in the mid lane. Sharfik taking a lot of damage while we're looking at that. One more. That's going to do it. Lich going to be the one to grab the first blood, and Outworld Devourer will go down to the grave. That is great news for Sigma. That high-value target, and they're going to grab it. Now Fonda going to start to pull ahead quite a bit in that mid.
Yeah, it's such a good idea for them to do this dual lane and mid, because Pugna can get by without levels. His base damage is still pretty high. OD really relies on Astral Imprisonment in order to secure his lane.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, and also, as you mentioned, having Lich there just to deny the creeps does help slow down OD quite a bit. And Ink Visitor, he's been trying to move around, trying to help out as best he can, but even by putting that Enfeeble on the Pugna, still hasn't been able to slow down his last hits all that much. And Pugna will be the last hit leader now. Miguel's still using those Cogs to drain a bit of mana. Going to chip away at Lucky's mana pool. And Topor kind of consistently low on mana, but did grab the early Ring of Basilius here to get a little bit of extra mana regen. Though, down in the bottom, looks like we are going to see some back and forth between Podcat and Tamash. Some support inbound here from the Lich. And now Tidehunter, well, going to be able to survive, I think. Whoa, that arrow going to connect. And, yeah, that's going to be his death. Well played there. I thought that arrow was going to be off the mark.
Way too long to kill this ward. Bane being a very short range hero, you can't actually attack it from over here. He had to walk all the way around here, eat 2 trees, and then by the time he finished, Tidehunter was already dead.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. That arrow, though, that was close. That was one of those kind of invisible hitbox, just clipping you kind of an arrow. Still well played, though. And that's going to be a haste stream down bottom. Sharfik going to be able to grab it here at the 4-minute mark.
Yeah, he's also forced to go bottle in mid too. So not only is OD under leveled and under farmed, he's also forced to spend his money on something that he usually does not want to get. You don't want to get a bottle mid unless it's going to lead you to absolutely dominate your opponent, or unless you really desperately need it for the regen. And it's definitely the latter case in this one. I guess he's not doing too badly in terms of levels, but Pugna is level 5.25, Sharfik is level 4.5, and usually OD will always win out in the experience war, at least in a one-on-one.
Yeah, of course. Lich throwing a wrench in the mix and then having to share XP with Bane, holding back that OD just a little bit. But yeah, we'll slow down his mech timing or Force Staff, whichever he's going to choose to go for first.
Sigma's most important goals in this early game is to keep OD underfarmed, so he doesn't get a quick minus and then just like one-shot their team with a lot of farm and be really annoying with its Force Staff and stuff, or get an early mech. That would be really bad for Sigma. And the other thing that they need to do is keep Tidehunter underfarmed, so that in case Sigma pulls ahead, they can't come back just by 5-manning with Ravage. And yeah, he's going to be level 6 pretty soon, but he has died once, and they've done an okay job. They don't really care if Weaver farms that much, just because Weaver, without the support to back him up, is not going to be able to do that much, just because Sigma can put so much pressure on their towers and starve them out in the mid game if the early game goes the way that they want it to.
Yeah, and on that same note, Weaver is getting boxed out pretty hard. He is 10-2 up against the 13-1 Clockwork, so it could be worse, but definitely not free farming up there by any means. In the mid, I mean, Astral Imprisonment into Nightmare. France could be in a little bit of a tough situation. Is going to get woken up by the Crystal Maiden, and that's going to be a kill going the way of Aspera. Going to get the first one on the board. Bane going to grab the last hit, and Sharfik going to get a little gold pick-me-up there as he finishes off the Nether Ward. So, going to be 1-2 here. OD finally getting a little bit of momentum. That Haste Rune, well, maybe not helping him out too much there, but did make for easy initiation. And nice support from the Crystal Maiden. Going to grab her some experience. Now has Arcane Aura, and level 4 going to have 2 points in the Crystal Nova.
Radiant's bottom tower.
An interesting duo lane up top. Still the Wind Ranger and Clockwork hanging in together. Clockwork, the primary farmer, I guess you could say, 17 and 2. But Wind Ranger herself, she's 13 and 6. So kind of a sharing is caring type lane up here. I don't know. I still don't know what to make of this duo lane up here in particular. It's kind of strange, and the sharing the farm as well. I don't know. Do you like that? Are you a fan of the sharing farm in a lane like that?
When both of those heroes are like kind of playmakers and don't really scale that well with items, I think it's okay. I think the most important part is for both of them to get boosts and possibly magic sticks, and then once you get that, it doesn't matter who gets farmed, just whoever there is there. And Miggle can box up people out a lot better with cogs. Windrunner is nice because she's ranged, but the threat of cogs is just really, really big.
Yep. And Pycat could be in kind of an odd position here. He does have a leap available, and he's going to be able to use it just in the nick of time. Probably would have been able to get it off anyhow, but still. Going to hop to the high ground, and he'll be just fine. Still going to be 2-1 here at the 6-minute mark. It looks like Sigma trying to get a bit aggressive here. Lich is going to rotate to the top lane. And they may try and make something happen. Lich only level 5 right now, still doing all right in terms of experience, but not quite at that level 6 mark. Supports on Sigma are doing slightly better in terms of experience. Bane, the lowest in the game right now at only level 3, so it's going to be quite some while before he grabs himself that Fiend's Grip, which is oh so valuable, of course. Can you hear that
Full graph
thumping?
still pretty close. Only 1500. First Moonlight Shadow comes out, and it looks like they may find Inquisitor. No. I guess they scouted him out with the ward.
Looking for him, not going to find him, but the courier. Bucking Mag going to find it, and not going to be able to finish it off. Close call, but it will survive as it speeds away.
Need phase booties for that.
Yep.
Just not enough damage. What do you think about the tankiness of couriers? It's like 2 hits. It's like 75 HP for a normal one and 150 for flying.
Yeah. It sounds okay. I mean, now with the change of you can't upgrade it with the first 3 minutes, I mean, we see teams that are really spot on, especially No-Tail. He loves to do those sneaky initial bottle delivery kind of pickoffs. So given that you can't upgrade it right away, I think it's all right. Yeah, I see that arrow on Sharfik. That'll be a kill. Lich going to grab it, and Smugly going to come in as well. But yeah, I think the fact that it has to stay ground for the first 3 minutes helps balance out its tankiness once you upgrade it, if you're really that serious about picking off the courier. Because if you just grab the flying courier kind of casually like that and you don't put a lot of stock into it, I think that might... I don't know. I guess you should be punished for mismicroing the courier. I think it's okay, though. I like that change in 6.79 to minimize the upgrade timing. And we'll see Crystal Maiden get picked off. But yeah, I think it's okay. I don't mind it being a little bit disproportionately tanky, like right around that 3-4 minute mark and slightly after when it's just been upgraded. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I was really glad when they changed it so they don't drop items anymore. That was a good time for Dota. When it used to drop items, that was just too much, man. Those courier kills were just... Yeah, way too much of a bounty, and Inquisitor are going to be in big trouble here. I think Mirana going to be able to finish him off. Look at that. Lich going to grab the Nightmare and whiff the camera a little bit, but Mirana going to finish him off with the Starstorm. And now Tapor going to wander his way over. His Shikuchi's about to expire, and they might be able to make something happen. Clockwork going to connect with a hook shot. And that is going to be on the OD. He will throw a Sanity's Eclipse. Not going to be enough to keep him alive. In comes the Ravage, though. And that'll finish off the Clockwork. Pycat going to fall shortly after. Still a valuable kill on that OD. Don't know if it was worth it, though. I guess technically a 2 for 2. So they did grab that kill before the fight started. So a worthy exchange for Sigma.
Yep, Pycat has still not died yet. Already with Arcanes and level 8. So now the tower siege begins. Well, I guess they took the T1 tower in mid. So now the tower siege continues. And I mean, Aspera without Ravage, without Bane being a level 6, without any items up on Weaver except a Midas, there is just no way they can contest them in this 5-on-5 engagement, especially when they have to worry about spells like Chain Frost.
Yeah, and you know, I see this as a game where Weaver going Midas first is just way too greedy. You know that they're going to be pushing these tier 1s hard. The tier 2s probably even harder once they hit that mid-game stride and use some of that gold they grabbed from the tier 1s. And I mean, Weaver's just going to take so long to come online. And if he gets picked off, oh, that arrow going to connect with Inquisitor. This should be a pretty easy kill. Battery Assault comes out. Hookshot going to be used on Lucky. Bane's going to go down. And now the Crystal Maiden going to get stuck in cogs. Well played by Miguel right there. He grabs 2. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of this Midas on the Weaver. I mean, if they can get there, they'll have that carry advantage. But already Aspera behind by a good bit. I don't think that was the right call here.
Yeah, Sharfik's also really behind too. He just has bottle, magic stick, no
Oh
talisman,
wow.
boots of speed too. No treads, no force staff, no mech pieces, no Midas either. No, not even a gloves of haste. And he
Yeah.
is just really far behind. And yeah, Weaver's going to be farming up, but what's OD going to be doing? If he tries to split push, he'll most likely die to Clockwork or just a Moonlight Shadow gank.
Hmm.
If he tries to defend, he's not going to be able to, especially if Weaver can't help him out. So. Yeah, I would agree with you here. I think like a treads drums on Weaver and a mech on OD would actually give them some sort of team fight potential so they can contest the tower push. But as it stands right now, Pugna very, very close to his mech, 800 gold to his name, and life draining a wild ring as I'm speaking, and that should be his mech. And then the towers are just going to fall over and over for Aspera, especially since they're a very ulti dependent lineup. If you look at their lineup, Freezing Field, very long cooldown, 2.5 minutes. Tidehunter, Ravage, pretty long cooldown too, 2.5 minutes. OD and Bane also have 2 minute plus cooldowns, so
Yeah.
they can fight effectively once every 2 minutes. And even with that, they might just like break even on team fights. Whereas Sigma, what do they really have? Like hookshot, it's fairly low, around a minute, and Moonlight Shadow is it's okay, but it's not going to necessarily be that imperative for them. Chain Frost is the only one that's really, really long for them.
Yeah, and one of the bigger issues for Aspera, you mentioned Bane, he's still only level 4. I mean, the supports are just so far behind for Aspera right now. If you look at that level chart, we see level 8 across the board with the exception of the level 9 Pugna on the side of Sigma. And Bane now level 5, Crystal Maiden just hitting level 6. That's really where one of the really big disparities.
Crystal Maiden should be a lot higher, though. Like,
Yeah.
she kind of left Weaver up there alone for a little bit, and she did not hit level 2 very early, which definitely hurt them. But the supports on the side of Sigma, we see Lich being already a level 8 and Windrunner level 8 too. So no one's really hurting for experience in terms of on Sigma's team. They're all very well rounded. 4 level 8, 1 level 9.
Yeah, and Lich going to have himself a hand of Midas as well, so he's going to have no problems in terms of farm. His experience going to continue to grow as well. There's a 4-man push down in the bottom from Sigma. Miguel just going to stay steady up in the top lane and make Weaver's life that much more difficult and make sure he can't just absolutely free farm. But Aspera not even going to try to defend it. They're just going to concede this bottom tier 1, though they are going to try and converge on Clockwork. Moonlight Shadow comes out. Do they have any kind of detection? Nope, nothing at all. No way to deal with it. And Moonlight Shadow going to keep Miguel alive. We were just talking about how much we both like seeing Mirana grab an early Moonlight Shadow, and that is the reason why right there.
Yep, especially when the supports don't have any sort of sentries or does. I mean, even if they do have it, it's still something that you always have to worry about as a support. It's like, crap, are we going to lose the next team fight because I don't have a sentry, I don't have a dust? Should I place a sentry ward right here? They could be Moonlight Shadow. It's a low chance, but they still could be doing it, and I don't want to get crushed. And it's just always a mental cock block as a support.
It's a good way to put it. You're absolutely right, though. In the mid lane, going to see a hook shot on to Sharfik on that OD. 3 points, ports on their way in, pardon me. I think Sharfik going to be in big trouble here. He is going to throw an Astral out, but he is going to fall. Lich going to finish him off with a Frost Nova, a.k.a. Frost Blast. And, yeah, that's just going to set the OD back even more. Things continuing to look worse and worse for Aspera. Gold lead upwards of about 10,000 here at the 14-minute mark. Experience lead just about 4,000. Though there is one sign of life for Aspera, and that is
The Midas Weaver?
Midas Weaver, well, he is a sign of life, but Tidehunter close to a mech. He's got those core pieces about halfway to the recipe. So that is good news. That will help them take these team fights, but yeah, still that Weaver just not even close to coming online. He's got 1,300 in the bank, but I mean, he doesn't even have boots yet. Ugh. That's a tier 2 down. Only one outer tower remaining. Tower count is going to be 5-0 in favor of Sigma, and Pugna's net worth just continuing to skyrocket. Inkvisitor up top. He's going to get caught by an arrow. Star Call going to come down. Star Storm. I'm just making up names now. It's Star Storm. That's going to be an easy kill on the Bane. Bane's still not level 6, by the way. Only halfway through level 5, as he is just a puddle on the ground.
Yep. He has just not been in the right place at the right time, and Inkvisitor typically has been playing decent support too. He's one of the original Aspera members, or rather, he's not a stand-in. So I'm surprised that he's doing so poorly. But as a support Bane, it really does take two. You can't really do that much by yourself. So if your Crystal Maiden is a stand-in, it's just difficult to get things accomplished as solo support. When you're not something like Lich. Lich is very much just a standalone support. You just keep sacrificing in lane, and you just keep noving people. Fada actually gets caught out. He has an invis ring, but he will be scouted out.
Yep, 2 sentries down. Miguel gonna hook shot in, and Fada just gonna plow forward. Bane gonna get killed again. Ink Visitor just can't catch a break here. Still not gonna grab any experience. And that will be an easy kill for Sigma. They're just gonna rotate up top, and they're gonna try and knock down this last outer tower. And I think they're gonna grab it. We'll see if
Nothing's stopping them.
Yeah, I'll see if Aspera try to contest, but still no mech out on the Tide quite yet. Oh, there it is. Just going to get delivered as I say that. So that is...
I'm also not sure why Weaver's going for Lincoln's. Like, Lincoln's does not do jack versus you. Like, Shackle Shot, but how many Shackle Shots have we seen?
Yeah.
Clockwork Hook will kill him. Arrow will kill him. There's... That's pretty much just what he
stops Life Drain and Frost Nova. That's about it. And Shackle, as you mentioned.
The crap, I suppose, too.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, none of those...
I think BKB is just much better.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, he's already committed, I guess, to that Ring of Health, so maybe that's why he feels like he needs the Lincolns, but yeah, I agree. I think a BKB would have gone a long way here. Even just, as you mentioned earlier, grabbing those drums earlier on, getting the power treads, at least having some presence in these team fights, but now he's got no damage, very little health. I mean, about as low as your hit points can get. His only bit of stats are that 1 GG branch, so not looking good for old Weavy.
Yep, he does have his ultimate orb. He's getting there.
Yeah, we're being too hard on him. He's getting there. He's got something. And OD does have a Force Staff now. Or wait, no, he's close to it. He's got the recipe and the staff. Does not have the ring quite yet. He's about halfway there, so maybe a little bit less. So working towards the Force Staff.
I think teams have started figuring out that Sharfik seems to be Aspera's best player, and if you shut him down and he can't make any plays in the mid game, then your team is... Aspera is probably going to lose. So I like Sigma's approach to this game with the dual lane in mid and just constantly pressuring him over and over. And even with that arrow in mid and Windrunner coming in from behind, they just bring so many heroes to deal with Sharfik. And yeah, Weaver got some space. Crystal Bane had some space, as did Bane, but they just didn't really do anything with it. And now that Sharfik's under farm, they just can't really expect that much out of their mid game.
Yeah. I mean, it really did end up being a double victory with the dual lane mid because it forced Bane to rotate a lot more than he wanted to, I think. So that hurt his early experience quite a bit, just trying to support the mid. And that was still a failure because, well, Sharfik still got picked on quite a bit. I mean, right now Sharfik is 0-4-3 on OD in only 16 minutes. So you're absolutely right. Sigma have done a lot of work to make sure they pressure him. And that is a key bit of insight. I mean, there have been several games I've seen from Aspera where they start to fall behind, and then all of a sudden Sharfik on Storm Spirit or one of those other aggressive heroes just gets a couple of kills. He takes that momentum and slowly brings his team back. So you heard it here first. How to beat Aspera. Just pick on Sharfik. Poor guy.
No Sharfik, no Aspera.
He is one of their most stable players. I mean, he's been on this roster for a while. I think he was on it all through Season 7 as well. So yeah, he really is.
Yeah, and I mean, they could rotate in 2 supports like they did, but they just killed the Lich, and Fada was still able to get huge amounts of farm, and that didn't really secure the lane for him because he just comes right back to lane, sacrifices, and OD is still very, very far behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gold Graph, about as scary as you'd think it would be with all those towers down. 14,000 gold ahead for Sigma, and Experience Graph, pretty comparable, about half that, and that's 7,000, give or take, so still a very, very sizable lead. And Sharfik is disconnected. Hopefully he can come back here. Though it's looking good for Pycat. I think he is going to be the true victor of today's matches, Merlini. He's going to go 4-0 across the 3 teams that he stood in on. Unless something...
Yeah, he's just a lot better than a lot of the players. I mean, not the Alliance players, but he's just simply much better than many of the carry players in the other games.
I mean, he's played very well today also. That's... for sure. I mean, he's 5-1 and 2 on Mirana this match. He's landed a handful of really clutch arrows so far, actually. 2 or 3
His
really
Alchemist
big ones.
was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was just a beautiful display of Alchemist. That's one of those VODs you just want to save, and next time someone says, hey, what's a good strategy for Alchemist? Just say, just watch this. Do what this guy does, because this is some flawless execution.
Yeah, it was the best of both worlds, the fighter and the farmer.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it looks like Sharfik is reconnected here, and... hopefully we'll resume pretty quickly. Looks like Sigma, though, are gearing up for a big push into the Tier 3. And there is no glyph available for Aspera right now, not for another minute or so. And I think that will open up a pretty big window for Sigma. Again, they mech on both sides, but Pugna very, very close to that Ag Scepter as well. He's got the 3 core pieces, and just going to need that point booster. And could be on the Courier, actually. Nope. It's a Shadow Blade on the courier actually coming out for Marana. It's kind of interesting. Not an item you see too often. On Marana, I mean.
Oh, you don't see it often anymore.
Yeah.
I guess sometimes on DK and sometimes on Alk, but
Yeah.
almost never on Nature's Prophet anymore.
Yeah, that's true, actually. That used to be that core starting item, Midas into Shadow Blade, and yeah, teams opt either to go Necro Book or kind of into that Sheepstick build more often. No, we'll see some initiation here. Hookshot forward. Sharfik just going to get dropped before the fight even starts. Moonlight Shadow comes out. Miguel going to be able to walk away still. No sentries to deal with this. Actually, there are some sentries in the inventory of Bane. There it is. It comes down. Or someone else's comes down. But Chain Frost going to come. Tamash going to fall. Pugna going to be able to finish him off with the life drain. Weaver going to hop forward. Oh, Tapor just getting way too aggressive there. Not going to have a Shikuchi. Beautiful Cogs going to stop him in. And he is going to fall. Miguel going to survive by the skin of his teeth with just a few hit points to spare. Lucky going to get stunned out. And this is just a massacre for Aspera. A 4-0. Easy peasy for Sigma. GG, there it is.
That was pretty much their only hopes too. With Ravage, with Mech too. If they can't win that fight, and 4 stuff on OD, if they can't win that fight, they can't win the game. Just because that was pretty much their last chance. So definitely, I think a very timely GG coming up from Aspera. Unfortunately, they are played with roster issues, as it seems like many teams are in Starladder, or at least having their main 5 on. But all in all, a good effort by them. Nice to see some new heroes here and there. But very nice play from Pycat and Sigma.
Yep. Absolutely. Been an interesting day. We got to see Pycat bounce around and still some big plays. So that does wrap up our coverage today, though, guys. Tomorrow, coming up, Friday the 13th, we are going to have 5 matches, 4 of which are Alliance. It will be next.kz versus Mal's to start things off. Then we're going to have Alliance versus Next, Alliance versus Mal's, Alliance versus Empire, then Alliance versus OSG. So they will be running the gauntlet tomorrow, Merlini, and we'll see how they fare. Going to be an interesting day. But until then, thank you for joining us here on Beyond the Summit for our day 12 coverage. I'm Zayori. With me is Merlini. Make sure you give us both a follow on Twitter. You can find it at the top of this broadcast, at Zayori TV and at Merlini Dota. Until tomorrow, Merlini, you're here tomorrow?
Be here tomorrow.
Yes. Awesome. Awesome. So until then, guys, take care.